I'm ready.
Sweet. I know this makes you like go up on the time. Great, and we are now live. Well, welcome back to the Embracing Resiliency Symposium. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the break and got some good networking in and are meeting some of the other attendees. Also, if you have not had a chance yet, I would recommend that you check out our virtual expo so you can see the sponsors today, Jefferson and TD Bank, along with some of our other community partners and the great work and things that they're doing, like the Philly Seaport Museum, Philadelphia Environmental Film Festival, Green Philly, and Sustain PHL Clean Air Council. Also, thank you all for your interactions, your comments, and sharing your knowledge on the first half of today. It's been really awesome to see people chatting. I feel like I'm at a real life conference, minus the fact I can't like sneak by in the hallway and just like crack jokes like I usually like doing. And you know, 2020 has been very heavy, and it's really inspirational for me to see the sustainability community come together and really start talking about positive solutions because we need to keep moving on in this positive direction. Also, I just want to say thank you for your patience as we are exploring this new platforms of accelerants and work out a couple of the nuances. So we're learning every day. And thanks to Catherine Suntag on our events team for helping things run smoothly as well. Shout out to Catherine. So with that, I am so excited to introduce our afternoon keynote, who continues to challenge young adults with his passion and humor. He's an architect, lead accredited professional, author, and founding director and professor in the Jefferson MS in Sustainable Design program. With over 250 graduates, the program is one of the, is it more, Rob?
No, that's right.
The program is one of the oldest, largest, and most innovative sustainable design programs in the world, and is right here in Philadelphia. He's someone who brings people together for a common mission. In 2001, he became a founding board member for Green Building United, formerly the Delaware Valley Green Building Council, to promote the development of buildings that are sustainable. In 2019, he co-founded a citywide consortium of 6 universities and 6 nonprofits, all working together to transform design education to become authentically equitable, inclusive, and a diverse learning environment. And he's someone who continues to push others for a more sustainable and equitable world. He was nominated by his peers, colleagues, and his students, and was our Sustain PHL 2017 Sustainability Mentor Award recipient. He's someone who's inspired many of our current city sustainability leaders who are breaking through barriers and dreaming of a green, thriving city. Today, he'll be sharing powerful insights so we can all unlock our inner leadership. I'm proud to introduce and welcome to the stage Rob Fleming as our afternoon keynote speaker. Rob, thank you so much, and take it away.
Well, thanks, Julie. I'm so happy to be here with everyone. I want to thank you for this opportunity. Thanks to Sean Hogan, my grad assistant, for helping with this lecture. And thanks to all of you for coming today. I am excited to share with you some thoughts about finding your inner leader. This particular lecture has an arc to it. It starts off, so-so. We're going to hit rock bottom about the middle, and you're going to be pretty depressed. And then we're going to dig our way out and talk about hope for the future. What can we do? And finally, I'm going to end today with a call for action to try to really bring folks forward to where we need to go. So I'm going to start by talking about 2005. This was the year where everything changed for me, and I think for the world. In 2005, a series of events occurred that fundamentally and dramatically changed the relationship of humanity to the natural world. It was the first time that we began to understand that our carbon emissions had direct impacts and loss of life. And right after that, Al Gore came out with his book, An Inconvenient Truth, and the movie, and I thought we were good. I thought Al had it figured out. I was planning to be done with sustainability work in about 5 years, and here I am in 2020, still fighting the good fight for sustainability and sustainable design. And over these years, since 2005, we've seen the evidence of climate change and the loss of life and the loss of quality of life. And we know that people have suffered. And we know typically the people with the least amount of power tend to suffer the most. In Houston, there are no stormwater mitigation plans or strategies. It's not part of the code because that would be a besmirch of freedom. We started to see again and again folks rising up and sharing with the world their displeasure on the inequities in the world. And we continue to see the ravaging of forest fires in California and in the Amazon. And we continue to see people step up and lead to try to change the world towards a sustainable future. And yet here we are in 2020, probably talking about rock bottom. I don't think I've ever hit a lower point than I am right now in this country, in this world, in my entire life. And just adding to the climactic stresses, now we face injustices that have been here all along, but now are really coming to the forefront again. And once again, we see leaders risking everything to fight for the rights of people that have been discriminated against and killed and abused. And then just to throw it on the top there, we get hit with COVID. So this is the time of crisis, and I know every lecture tries to spin crisis into an opportunity. I am not going to do that. A crisis is a crisis. It is not what any of us want. It is a time of intense difficulty and danger. And more to the point, as I get to the end of this talk, it's really a time for us to make an important decision. So what I'm going to do now is kind of talk about what it means to be a leader and how each of us can begin to raise the level of our leadership higher and higher to have more and more impact. And we could agree that leaders take all kinds of roles and personas. This is what we typically think of as leaders. We think of trailblazers and rebel rousers and freedom fighters. And that's great, and those people are there, but I don't think all of us are cut from that mold. I know that I'm not. I don't have the courage to go out there and fight. I find other ways to do that. And I think all of us, as we find our leadership track, are going to find the place where we can be most effective, that is most aligned with our personalities and our personal growth as individuals. But regardless, you are a leader. If you're watching this lecture, you are a leader on some level. And so this lecture is going to try to get into that. I'm just going to skip over that. I'm going to talk about negative leaders first. And I hate to say it, some of you in this audience may be this guy. And yes, I took him from clip art, from stock photos. But we're also going to look at the level of risk involved with each level of leadership. These are the folks that are the naysayers, the devil's advocates, and the so-called voice of reason. And the last thing that I think we need right now is all about reason. Yes, reason is important. We need to be rational, but we also need to be emotional. We need to be upset, and we need to have that inner calling for leadership. So I would challenge everybody in the audience that fits this mold to rethink their persona and hold off on the devil's advocate for a minute and really try to buy into what leaders are trying to accomplish. Now, we also know that we have a lot of potential leaders out there. These are folks that are dormant leaders that have great potential to make great impact on our planet in so many areas, but there's no risk there. And yet the risk to the planet and to the country and the long-term risk of not taking action is as dangerous as any other kind of thing that we could do. And then there are what I would call the low-risk volunteers. I love low-risk volunteers, people that just take their time and go out and clean a park. Who does that? What is the motivation for that? There is something inside of you that makes you want to do the right thing. And now more than ever is we're talking about doing the right thing. There are folks that donate money, donate food. That is a form of leadership, a very valid form of leadership. And these are low risk, reasonably high reward strategies. Now, I know that we vote with our pocketbooks. We tell the free market what it is that they should be making for us. So the way we shop and our green lifestyles is a form of leadership and is a way to make change. And I, for one, drive a Chevy Volt. Everybody's seen it. I brag about it. It was used. And yes, I have solar panels on my roof. But I want to say that I am not going to pat myself on the back too much. I think this is the minimum threshold for those people who have wealth and power and privilege. The green lifestyle is sort of a minimum platform that I think all of us ascribe to and should be able to achieve with really a very low risk. So really now it's time to raise our game. If you're in that level of leadership, thank you so much. I applaud you, but today I want to push you forward to higher levels of leadership with more impact. Now, the first place you could do that clearly is in your own organization, in your office, in your political party, in your school, in your community. You can be a leader within the system, and I think that all of you have tried to do this with varying levels of success. I have been working on my organization for 20 plus years with limited success. I know all of you have fought this, you've seen this, and this comes in many forms, and I urge you to continue to fight through. You may be risking a promotion, you may be risking a raise, you may be risking your career, and with that risk comes some sort of reward that you can begin to see the world change within your own organization. As we go a little further and go up to the next level, we've got to take a little bit of look at this diagrammatically. Yes, we have a major big problem. I am stressed out by this, and I'm only one person. I'm feeling very overwhelmed. I'm feeling very paralyzed. I'm feeling demoralized. And I know that these are temporary things, but they definitely drive inaction. And as a person who sees this big problem, I could also see it as an opportunity. And so maybe it's better if I take a chunk out of the big problem. For me, it was green buildings 25 years ago. For somebody else, it might be sustainable food. For somebody else, it might be social equity. These are all pieces to the puzzle that we can use to sort of chip away at this big problem. So you need to identify a problem that you want to take on at a very high and dramatic level. And once you do that, you pull it out, you understand it, you study it, and you now become an opportunity seeker. You now become an entrepreneur. You now become an activist. You now are activated by this piece of the puzzle. And you begin to find other people that are like you, that think like you, that want to work with you. You start to find a new community, and you build strength from that community. And as you build that community, you organize. And hopefully you don't let your ego destroy the organization of the organization. And you all know what I mean. We've got to learn how to work together to solve these major problems. And as we do that, we begin to realize that we're not the only group that's working to chip away at this big problem, right? That all over the world, there are groups right now like us working on these kinds of issues that are trying to solve major problems. So take stock and take solace that you are not the only person in a leadership position. You are not alone, and you are supported. So what does that look like? What are some of the things that you could do? You could start a new company. There's a group of folks that started a company called Revolution Recovery that takes construction waste out of landfills and brings it back into the stream, creating a circular economy. And you don't have to be the leader of Revolution Recovery to be a leader. This is Bernie, Shane, Fern, and Joe, who all work there and contribute to, sounds corny, making the world a better place. And I applaud them for everything they do. And there's some risk there. There's a little bit more risk. To give up your career, whatever it was, and start a new career is a level of risk that many folks are not willing to take. I would say that these folks are probably feeling pretty rewarded right now to have taken that risk and had the impact. Fern went on, actually did this first. She started a nonprofit called RARE, Recycled Artists in Residence. And that's another form of leadership. You could start your own nonprofit. However, we have a lot of nonprofits right now. So if you can plug into one that exists, I recommend that you find a way to do that. If you want to start a nonprofit, that's also great. This is Milk Crate. That was started by Morgan Berman. This is a for-profit opportunity, and she's now working with companies to motivate employees to adopt a sustainable lifestyle. And then there's Patrick Isaac, who works at Community Ventures, which is a nonprofit development company that's trying to build affordable housing in neighborhoods that could really use that. So this is not gentrification, even though you might perceive it as that. And then there's Alex Dews, who runs and leads the Green Building United. He gave up his career to join the nonprofit world and to lead and become an advocate for green buildings. That's how he spends his time. That's how he leads. And then there's Adam McGallagher, who until recently worked for the city of Philadelphia to build a solar array to offset city energy footprints by 15 to 20%. And then there's Johnny Hopkins, who after graduating from his master's degree went and started a nonprofit called Philly Earth in North Philly, where he taught kids after school how to do permaculture. And then there is, oh my God, I forgot her name. I'm blanking. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So then there's folks that go in and become directors of sustainability and try to change organizations within. This is Barbara Moore, who graduated from my program as well. Sorry, Barbara. And then there are those who decide that they want to go into teaching, and that's another form of leadership, right? In some ways, teaching is low risk, but it is a career change that can lead to many rewarding opportunities. Amma, after she graduated our program, found herself finally at Tuskegee as an assistant professor. Joyce is a professor in Canada, and Siglinda is a professor now in Pittsburgh. And they are now shaping the hearts and minds and souls of hundreds of people towards a sustainable future. So I'm getting pretty excited. I'm feeling very hopeful, but I don't think that we are where we need to go. These are all wonderful forms of leadership, but we face back to the crisis, back to the point at which we need to think about a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. And I think all of you know what I'm talking about. I think all of you know what's at stake over the next 40 days or so. I think we have an important decision to make. And I think now is the time that we might want to find our inner leader and step up and see what we can do to help secure a sustainable future. The choice we have, and yes, I'm going into politics, I'm not going to shy away from it. The choice we have right now is really critical. And I'm not going to say it's Trump versus Biden. I don't really care. I care, but I don't care. I think we're voting on some really important, fundamental issues that are going to reshape or shape our lives for the next 40 years or so. It's really going to be the final determinant about whether we're going to get any movement towards climate change or not, or whether resilience will be the word of the day. And ultimately, the thing that I worry about the most, and I think you should be too, is more democracy or less democracy. Every day, we're seeing the pillars of democracy being taken away and being replaced by some other forms of government that are more threatening and more scary. And so I would urge all of you to invest your time in this election, even if you don't like the candidate. That is not the point, because if you're going to be a leader and you're going to fight for a sustainable future, you've got to overcome your individual thoughts about an individual candidate. And so the lowest risk thing that you can do to secure our future is to vote. Very low risk and very easy to do. Going beyond that, though, we have the opportunity to do all kinds of things to get others to vote. And that's the next step of leadership. Is it enough for you just to vote? Couldn't we be spending our time out there getting others to vote? This could be done person to person. This could be done on social media. And I know all of you are looking forward to my big social media campaign about voting, which you saw a little preview thereof. I'm excited about it. But, you know, this is a thing that we really have to think about doing right now. And finally, and I apologize for the pixelation of this picture, these are the people that I admire. I'm talking about peaceful, respectful protesters, demonstrators. I was raised by a protester in the 1960s who marched for civil rights. And now there's a new generation of folks and older folks that are out there marching and really taking almost the ultimate risk, really risking their freedom to make a voice heard, to try to change a system. And that, to me, takes a lot of courage that I personally don't have. But I want to, for those of you in this audience that are listening now that have done this, I want to say I have a lot of respect for you and admiration, and I see your leadership. And I see the risks that you're taking, and I just want to applaud that again, and I want to support you in every way that I can. So we've learned today now already in this very short lecture all the different ways that we can lead. And we're moving towards the end of my talk, and I have no idea how long this talk lasts. I'm going to assume that I'm within my time. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to actually try to look at you as a person. I'm going to manipulate the technology here. And so that was the end of my PowerPoint. And I hope that I wasn't too emotional. I hope I wasn't too impassioned. But as I said before, this is the time for emotion. This is a time for passion. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end my talk and release all of you to your next session. So thank you very much.